Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tom, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident franchise of dwindling returns of the pod, DL. How are you, mate?
Jeez. You're saying I'm used up.
I'm just saying your ideas are getting a bit thin by this point.
You're saying I'm unoriginal.
Well...
You're saying I'm washed up, used up, and unoriginal? That's rude,
Well, we're going to be talking about Alien³ on this podcast, and that was sort of where it came from. My anecdotes at the beginning always come from a little pull, a little pop prod from the movie we're going to be talking about. So I think I'm showing my hand a little bit early on this one, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, all in all, I thought this was going to be worse.
100% me too.
Yeah.
I heard this was like one of the worst franchise movies of all time.
The way that fans talk about it.
Like, as if it took a big steaming dump on the franchise, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like, Hangover 2, the way they talk about this movie.
Hangover 3.
Sorry, 3.
3 is...
3, that's what I meant.
2 I don't love.
2's not great, but that's what I meant. Hangover 3. Or what was the other one that's like the sequel is just so bad?
I mean, there's a number. Let's quickly Google. Matt, you can streamline this for us. Let's streamline worst sequels. Jaws Revenge. I'm pretty sure that's a bad one.
It's on a bunch of lists.
Let's just find Highlander 2. Oh my God.
Grease 2.
We still need to come back to Highlander.
Yeah.
We did the first... Whenever Henry Cavill decides
fair.
He's finally going to make that reboot, whatever it is, we will come back.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
It's up there.
I think we've talked about that in an episode that shall not be named. The Crow had a sequel. We're going to be talking about The Crow at some point soon. My God, there's a lot of Police Academy on this list. I don't know. Do you ever watch Police Academy?
No idea. Nothing about it.
The OGs were great. Oh, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I talked about that on the show with friend of the show, Resident Reegs, a few weeks ago.
Yes.
We talked about the first one before we did the reboot.
The first one and the reboot.
Yeah, I mean, we like to do that sometimes. But guys, we are going to be talking about Alien³ today. Alien 3, that is apparently, because Alien Romulus is coming out. And I'm quite excited for that. I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen the trailer. Fede Alvarez looks like an inspired choice. What did you think?
I guess it just doesn't reveal much.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this lore kind of needs to expand or not at all. Or like stop doing these movies. That's kind of my honest take.
We're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
I think it's more about the tone and how
it's that too.
How it sort of invokes the feeling of the originals. You know, like it's got that vibe. It got that vibe.
Yeah.
It's got that vibe. I don't know why we went there, but we did. That's what it's got, and I'm feeling what he's throwing out there.
I get that, but you could you can only redo the vibe so many times before it's just like the same vibe.
Well, I feel like they keep ruining it, and then do even there's so much alien stuff out there. There's comics, there's video games, there's Batman crossovers with aliens sometimes, and definitely Predator. So like there is so much, and like they'll do a good video game, and then they'll do like 3 shit things, and then they'll do a good thing. So like the ratio by now must be like 3 to 1.
Yeah,
absolutely not strong. But when they do a good one, everyone loses their shit.
Yeah.
I got a good feeling about this one.
I actually didn't everyone hated Prometheus, but I enjoyed watching that.
I don't even remember it. It's
because it expanded the lore.
That nothing to me.
It expanded the lore. I was like, okay, at least you're doing something new.
You were interested in the ideas.
Well, it's just new.
Wow.
It's not just like people getting xenomorphed.
Well, we're getting way ahead of things because we're going to be talking about trivia pretty soon towards the end of the pod, and you might be interested to hear a few bits about that exact thing. But DL, your wedding is fast approaching.
It is.
How are we feeling?
We're good, man. We're good. I got to start planning this little Bucks party in Prague with a couple mates. I have all we've got is the Airbnb and the place we're going to be.
So I'm not exactly sure when this episode is going to be coming out. So this could have happened by the time, but
I could be dead.
You could be dead. We could have lost you in Prague, like the Hangover 2 or whatever.
I
hope
not, dude.
What happens in Prague stays in Prague, my friend.
Okay.
But I hear your dad's going to be
not
there.
Me, though. I need to leave Prague. My dad is going to be there with his partner because he just decided to... Yeah, what is he thinking?
Knew.
No, I think we'll do a dinner with him and then kick him out.
That'll be nice. Yeah. How wholesome of you. Look at you being a good son and whatnot. Dude, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm getting excited, man. There's You know, for not having much to do, I'm super busy. I just find ways to stay active. But we haven't like practiced our first dance at all. So
all right.
We really need to do that. We're
That's
a month
big
away.
One. You should go full like American Pie 3 and get Stifler to teach you.
Is that what they do?
That's a real
I never
deep
saw
cut
that
right
one.
There. I like the wedding
everyone
one.
says the wedding one's better than like people give it credit for.
It is better than people give it credit for. Actually, you know what? So American Pie 1, I mean, look, we're from a different generation where this stuff was completely acceptable. So American Pie 1, I really liked. 2 I preferred to 1, funnily enough.
Yeah, same.
3 was just a rehash and a bit shit, and then they did the wedding, and I was like, they're back, baby. Yeah. They're back. But nowadays, the question is, can you get away with that humor anymore?
It's like not a
It's got to evolve, right?
I just think no one's willing to do it because it's everyone's afraid to get canceled. But would it sell? Yeah.
I reckon people would see it.
Everyone that saw those other movies is still alive. Your grandparents didn't see those movies. You know what I mean?
Your grandpappy's comedy.
You know, so it's like the market is still there.
Yeah, agreed.
And then like if you can get Gen Z on board by some Gen Z jokes, like you have a bigger market potentially.
Habituation time.
Yeah.
Imagine doing like a playoff against like how the old school, or maybe they're even the teachers now.
Maybe that is the story.
There's your way in.
Yeah.
You do Superbad, but the American Pie guys are the teachers.
And then they're dealing with the Gen Zers, and like both sides can make fun of the other in a way that is mutually.
Why aren't we writing films, Deal? This is what happens when we're both awake.
I think we need to make this happen. That's a good script.
Not even that.
Just that idea. It doesn't have to be American Pie. That idea.
That idea is great. I'd love that. Like I'd love the old American Pie guys to be the teachers.
Well, you have the franchise power. That's what people want.
It's right there. Yeah. They all come back to their hometowns. Yeah. Oh, man, we should write in Hollywood. No, we shouldn't. Yeah. This is probably terrible. Guys, look, if you want to skip around, there are going to be time codes in the description, as always supplied by editing master Mr. Matthew Bliss. Stick around. We will give you his details at the end of the show. He should be part of our podcast team, I think. DL, do you think he should be part of our podcast team?
I think he should, yeah.
I think they do.
You need him.
I think so. I think you need him on your podcast team, but don't compete with our podcast, please. We don't need that. There's too many of us. One question for you, DL, before we get into things.
Yes.
If you were to create another Alien movie,
yes,
how many stars out of 5 would you give it?
I have to give it 5, I guess. But I probably wouldn't.
I don't know where I was going with this.
I probably wouldn't, but we'll give it 5.
We love that. If you could give us 5 stars in your podcast capture right there, guys, you can do it right there. It's in-app, Apple, Spotify, whatever you use. 5 stars would help us a lot with algorithms. Things, well, I don't understand. You might understand them better than me, but you know, like we don't know how they really work. But DL,
yes,
what have you been up to, buddy?
Yeah, you asked me to think about this because again, we're doing this weird pre-recording, and I really haven't done much other than the stuff that I've talked about before. So I'll deep dive on some of it. That's what I can do.
I like this idea.
I can deep dive on some of it.
You know what you can do? You can give me a quick overview of the book series that we've been that I've not let you talk about.
Which one?
I'm excited for you. I am excited to read it. I just haven't.
You still haven't read it?
I'm about a third of the way into the second one.
Okay. You've been a third of the way there for like a month.
No, I haven't. I've actually you
really need to pick up
put some time into it.
The point I've been basically deep diving into the world of like blockchain, semiconductors, and AI, and it inspired. It's real nerdy shit, like deep tech shit, and it inspired my plot line. I think the story I want to write. You watch the rise of true Gen AI. The battle that happens between two nations using it where they lose control of it. And then you watch society fall in one timeline. Another timeline, thousands of years in the future, you're starting with what's risen from it.
Interesting.
And that's the plot line. And you follow 2 parallel storylines where one is watching
this is
what
full
happened.
Graham Hancock shit right here.
Dude, this is... It not only is it inspired by Graham Hancock, it's inspired by a couple things. But I like the idea.
This sounds like the movie that you were supposed to get with Leave the World Behind, and you just saw like a little thing.
What is Leave the World Behind?
Have you not seen it with Mahershala Ali? It's got Julia Roberts.
Yeah, like I guess like you're kind of maybe you do see that fall, but you also it's almost like becomes a like road style book. Towards the end because like society has fallen, but then you jump forward hundreds or thousands. I haven't figured it out. Years and society looks very different, but something has recovered, and the mystery is like, well, as you're learning of seeing the fall, you're seeing this other thing. You're like, what happened? And that's part of the mystery. And then there's another storyline about like, hey, what does it mean to be kind of humanity that's defined in this future world? And that's the storyline you follow.
Interesting.
In the second timeline. And so it's like hopefully like a trilogy of some kind that where the parallel storylines inform each other as you go through it. It's a big undertaking, but I finally have that framework, and now I can like actually start to try and do it.
I feel like you're talking about writing some of Dune. Like
Why?
A future where they've got rid of all technology and they don't use it.
No, it's they use it.
So we're gonna have
you have lots of technology actually.
Interesting.
And I guess the question, like, I think that what I'm gonna try and explore is like the AI war happened. Who won, and why is it like this? And this future state is actually more advanced but isolated.
Interesting.
Different areas. And so there's going to be like, I think we can talk about it more off the pod because it's still a bit nebulous.
I like this,
but
though.
the like future world is more like a Red Rising style world, but with AI.
Interesting.
Not like Roman shit.
Yeah. I feel like there are the concepts of high technology in Red Rising, but they're just not explored.
No, you'll see it. But it's like, I think he does such a good job of mixing high fantasy with high sci-fi.
Yeah, right.
And like that, it's kind of very Dune in that way. And that's what I'm trying. Like I wanted to do something like that, but I couldn't figure out how. And Red Rising was quite inspiring in that way. I'm like, okay, you don't actually need to know all the details.
No.
You kind of can just like make really compelling characters and the rest will like, no one's going to ask like how it was genetically, how the obsidians existed or whatever. I don't know if you're that far.
Yeah,
they've probably mentioned them before.
They're already in there. I know what they are.
Okay.
I've heard these words.
Yeah, it's exciting. I finally feel like I have a framework now to like, okay, what do I want to explore in this story?
Yeah.
Who are the characters? I already had a few characters in the other one. What do I want to explore there? And then just gonna write them both and hopefully find a way to make them intermingle and form each other.
It's super interesting. I was having a conversation with a colleague yesterday evening, actually. They're on UK time. I'm obviously not. And they were talking about their love for Terry Pratchett and how he creates worlds and creates books. Now, it's super interesting because if you read through, Terry Pratchett, so many books, such interesting worlds. But if you get to the very last one, apparently he had like full-on dementia in that. So you can almost see how he outlines the story and then tries to create it within there, but doesn't go deep into the worlds and the background and the various subsections and parasections that writers like that like to create within their novels. So it might be interesting to have a look and see, get some different influences and inspirations outside of, just Red Rising.
Of course. I mean, I was doing this well before Red Rising, but I think what he's done well is make a fantasy book that is sci-fi.
Interesting.
If that makes sense. Because fantasy sells better as well than sci-fi.
So he smashed genres together. Like a smashed avocado.
Yes.
I don't know where I'm going with this. That's interesting. I love the ideas. I think we should flesh them out as we go along. Perhaps as we do these recordings, which are sort of going out while you're getting married and I'm having a lovely holiday. So hopefully you're having a nice holiday too.
So.
We sort of flesh these out a little bit and maybe come to some new ideas for you.
Oh, as they come, I'll let you know. Yeah.
I love that. That'd be great. I have done some fun stuff. I just have a bit of a backlog of stuff that I've been meaning to talk about. So I'm going to throw a few of them out there. Ones that maybe haven't got around to talking about, maybe other things have taken over instead of me talking about them. So we began the third series of an Amazon show called Upload. And I've talked about this before. Upload's a great one to watch with the partner. It's got these like weird tech elements. So the idea is at the very first series that when you die, your consciousness gets uploaded.
Upload, it's called?
Literally called Upload.
On Netflix?
Amazon. Gets uploaded to like their version of heaven, which is a digital thing.
Sounds nice.
If you're rich enough, you can go to the nice ones.
It's like Elysium.
Right. Except it is literally just your consciousness. Yeah. Whereby if you are not, you might go to like a shitty one or whatever. So the first concept, ideas in the first season are super cool. So it's this dude who dies and it's like a mystery around how he died. And like he's lost a bunch of his memories. But like in the real world, like you have a handler who helps you adjust to being dead, and he like falls for the handler. It's like super cute. But it also turns out like his real world girlfriend has her father is super rich and has all these ties to these companies that house the like, let's call them heavens, whatever you want it to be. Like as a almost like sci-fi concept, it kind of is almost without really screaming about it.
Yeah,
wrapped in like a bit of a rom-com that you can watch with your partner. The first season, really good.
Okay,
like it's really wholesome. I actually watched the first season twice. I watched it while I was away traveling, then I came back and I watched it with the partner, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time. Going through that story and watching them fall for each other, and the sort of mystery in the background that maybe carries through to the second season too. Quite fun, like a nice idea. I've definitely talked about it before in a pod, but
I do remember you talking about this.
There is a third season which has come out recently, and it's at the point whereby I remember we talked about last time we caught up about ideas getting stretched too thin.
Yeah.
And whether whether like with Severance specifically, whether once you've had a big reveal, can you keep that idea going? How do you evolve it?
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's really evolved. There's like some real world stuff happening, which is semi-interesting, but not really as interesting as the original, like mysteries that happened in Upload.
That is the hard part.
It's all right. Like, I would recommend going away and watching at least the first season with your partner. I think she'll have a really nice time with it. It's kind of cute. Like, like things that it's things that are good to watch with a partner, while also you might get some interesting
out of it.
Yeah, without being completely switched off.
Yeah. Well, she's full on into Severance now.
Right. Nice.
We're like last episode before the final one, the penultimate.
Ooh.
And she's like hooked.
She's in.
Yeah,
nice.
It's the biggest cock tease though, the way that ends.
Oh, big time.
So she's gonna be pissed.
This one, the first season definitely ends on a cliffhanger. So I think you'll be in. And the other pretty interesting thing I watched fairly recently is a thing I saw. I think it's on Disney. I was just flicking through trying to find something to watch, and it's effectively like a docu-series about Hideo Kojima. Now, Hideo Kojima, world-renowned game designer. Yeah, used to work with Capcom, now has his own company, created the likes of Metal Gear Solid, like these like games which are so world-rich and beautiful and interesting. And I thought it was going to be a bit of a doco about his life, his journey. Kind of was. But it sort of also mapped his move away from Capcom to creating his own business, Kojima Productions, and the creation of that weird fucking game, Death Stranding,
that you really liked, that
I stopped playing after like 12 hours because I hadn't got anywhere in it.
That game like got pretty bad reviews for how heralded it was. Like how the build up, it was like how pumped up, and
it made a lot of money, and they're doing a sequel, and they're also talking about making a movie of it. So like it must have done something right. I think it's just so unique.
I think that sometimes people like love an art so much, even they'll like that. People love that guy.
Yeah.
I don't think the game is like super compelling as compared to other ones he's made, is my point.
Yeah.
Like unbiased reviewers are like, it's like a mediocre game with like really cool design.
Idea. I think some of the ideas are really cool.
But like, it's just not fully realized is what I've heard.
They spent 5 years, whatever it was, creating this game. This show, it's called Kojima Connecting Worlds. I really liked it as like a one-off. A view into his mind. He's the type of dude who's just like hyper creative. Yeah. He never switches off. He's always got something new ideas. Yeah. He wants to be involved with the creation of the game as well. So he's not just an ideas guy who then flits away. So interesting. And like his like key takeaway from it was like, I think he's just turning 60 or something. He doesn't look it at all. He nowhere near looks his age, but he's like, yeah, I'm turning this age, and what if I don't get the opportunity to expand on all my ideas and give them all to the world? I'm like, look, man, that's such a nice way to live. Like, imagine having that outlook of being like, people like my stuff and I wish they could have more of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good way to live if you can live that way.
Yeah, right. So it's good.
For sure.
I'd recommend Upload if you wanted to go back and watch with a partner. Definitely seasons 1 and 2. 3, we've kind of fallen off a little bit. Loses a bit of the original sparkle. And Hideo Kojima, if you want to sit down and just be interested by a dude who's got like some big ideas and really wants to share them, definitely give it a go. Give it a watch. I think it's on Disney.
Okay.
Not too long either. It's just over an hour, I think. So
docos are easy sittings.
It's a good one. I absolutely recommend it. So, guys, if there's anything you recommend, hit us up. You can find us at podcastassemble or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. Or just go to our website, www.podcastassemble.com. You can send us stuff through there. Send us memes, send us news, send us reviews. We fucking love it when you do. We'll call you out. DL, I know we've sort of already talked about it, but do you want to preface our main topic, baby?
It's the main topic theme.
Yeah, we watched Aliens 3, or as Tommy likes to call it, Aliens Cubed, which
Aliens.
It's a bit of Aliens.
We watched Aliens. That's a different film.
Is it? It's very sexual.
We're back to Vladimir Putin butt plugs.
Gross. The logo apparently looks like, I don't think it does. I think it's just like a square 3.
It's a cube.
Do you know what cubed is? Is it
It's
cubed?
In the top corner.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's cubed.
All right, you say what you want to say. You think what you want to think, I'll think what I want to think.
All right. Yeah, we watched it. Better than I thought it would be.
I completely agree. And, like, we've already done
the heat,
We've already done Alien and Aliens, I believe. So picking up from Ridley Scott and James Cameron's, I think there's a lot of background to this movie that I want to talk to you about. But before we do,
yes,
give me a stupid plot summary, my dude.
All right. Do not drop the soap in this prison, or you'll be getting more than even the Riker inmates are used to. Sigourney Weaver is back with a lusty appetite in this prison thriller where Charles Dance plays someone likable.
Ooh.
And the Xenomorphs return for what must be their recession-ridden homeland as austerity measures seem to be in full effect with these Kmart killers.
I like it. It encapsulates the dourness of this world very nice.
Yes, in the budget of the CGI.
Mine is very simply a masterclass in pushing a franchise forward and simultaneously destroying its fan base. Alien is back, baby, for one of the most hated sequels of all time, which low-key has some interesting redeeming features. I think that captures it nicely, in my opinion.
I think that's fair.
This was directed by David Fincher, and I love David Fincher, right? He did Sevenin. He did...
Sevenin?
Because it's spelled S-E-7-E-N. Sevenin. He did Zodiac. He did Gone Girl. But this was his cinematic debut, which I find really interesting in terms of directorial. He did a bunch of music videos, and he publicly disowned this film, which
did he really? But I mean, it's pretty tough, dude.
Yeah, but it was like this had a hideous production.
Yeah,
like all the way through. So he was the last director who brought into this. A bunch of other directors had been offered it and come in, been fired. It had been written, it had been rewritten. It had like so many different scripts. So interestingly, this is kind of a mishmash of a lot of different scripts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it does somehow bring back Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. She did not want to come back for this at all.
Oh, the actress didn't.
Yep, one of her conditions was that she died at the end. I really like some of the cast. So Charles S. Dutton as Dylan, he was great. Charles Dance, it's Charles Dance.
It's young Charles Dance.
He's great in this.
He's good.
He needed more. So there is Danny Webb as Robert Morse. Lance Hendrickson's in this again as Bishop too, very briefly.
Yep.
And a British staple. Anyone who has watched any British TV or movies, Pete Postlethwaite.
Yes, I recognized him.
There's a lot of British accents in this. There's a lot going on. Let's talk plot then. What kind of happens in this? What's the broad overview?
Oh, I mean, net Ridley, unfortunately, Ripley, unfortunately, again, crash lands.
She's so unlucky, that girl.
Yeah, with an escape
pod. She doesn't get a lot of...
Awaking from cryosleep with all her friends again dead.
Yes, everyone dies.
She brings an alien along
for the ride.
Yeah,
this is gonna be all spoilers, guys.
Yeah, they land on the prison, on a prison planet. So it's just like a bunch of like really horny dudes that are like rapists and murderers.
They don't really dive into that too far, do they?
No, a little bit, but not too much. I mean, luckily for her, she's a bit lusty as well, so she's got the selection of these poor
she
chaps.
chooses the right one.
She does.
Chooses Charles Dance,
the softer of the crew, and yeah, the Xenomorphs return from what can only be described as a not too distant exit. Like they're back and they're killing things.
Somehow they be back.
And they're stuck on this planet with no weapons. Yeah. That's one of the big changes. It's just a bunch of prisoners. It's a small crew of 25 prisoners there.
Well, I'm going to call this out up top. The first 45, maybe 50 minutes of this, I really liked.
Same.
So we've obviously, like I say, we've talked about Alien and Aliens, and my favorite of those was Alien because I really liked the H.R. Geiger-ness of it. The creeping sense of the alien, that it was never in sight. It was always just in the corner of your eye. It was that prickling sensation on your back of your neck. And this kind of brought that back for 40 minutes. And it was really, really good. And then it just goes a bit batshit crazy at the end.
Well, I think that yes, it did. But it also can't ever recreate that because we've seen the Xenomorph.
They got to try something different.
It needs to be but you're right. Like this... Also, they built the lore in the first hour-ish.
It did.
And it was new lore. It was good. It was interesting. There was a good setup.
Yes. I think we talked about this just before we started, that this missed something. So, it's sort of two-dimensional in the way that it's created, in that it is very straightforward in what it becomes. It needed an extra element, whether that was, the more danger from the prisoners, whether the prisoners were more threatening to Ripley and... they had to keep it on side. Whether corporation, maybe that was a bigger influence in this. Maybe there was someone in the prison who was a corporation man who was maybe fixing it the way Bishop did in the last one. There was a little something that just didn't quite...
Or juxtapose what is meant to be considered the decrepit, terrible bits of society that are these last 25 prisoners.
Absolutely.
And their moral compass with that of the mechanism of greed that is the corporation and society that put them there, and maybe investigate who's worse in this situation? You know what I mean? When we boil it down to life and death,
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that generally speaking, murderers are pretty bad. But like, my point, you can at least explore like some concept like that.
I really like that
I don't
idea.
think they did as much.
And I think it's really interesting that, like I mentioned, this had a really troubled production, and Fincher specifically was given around half the amount of time for principal photography that Cameron did. So the amount of time he literally had to create this world and, shape it in his way was literally fuck all. It was like 70 days something. It was crazy how little he had. And it's kind of a fascinating insight into, studio interference, burning through writers, how not to make a movie in such a like beloved franchise. The way they talk about this is like they had a date they were gonna release.
Why did they do it like that?
I don't know. What? Just like make a good fucking movie. But like it ironically has some of the most iconic imagery in the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
So the scene where the Xenomorph is like right up against Ripley's face, that's from this film.
Yeah, for
the
sure.
scene where she jumps off at the end and
holding the little baby.
Yeah,
little baby.
Holding the little baby.
Little baby alien.
But like it almost killed Fincher's career in the process, which I find absolutely fascinating. And it took Sigourney Weaver publicly, shaming the studio 20th Century Fox a number of times to journalists that resulted in him getting more opportunities in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah, because this all fell on him. And, it was the 90s. We didn't have the same insights into movies and access that they did. And, the studio could just push and pull how they wanted to, which sucks.
But it's also like, why would you? Even like if you fucked up and you're just like blaming this guy, but it wasn't his fault and he is a good director. Like, why would you do that?
That shit happens all the time.
I guess it's just because executives are dumb.
Well, what happens
executives
nowadays,
all look out for their own purse.
Totally. And what happens nowadays is people fail up in Hollywood. So like I don't know about then, but now this would have fucked up. Because he would have taken the responsibility, he then gets a better job off the back of it.
Because the execs are like, well, we can always keep our job.
You took the hit for us. Exactly, right?
So
and that's how people fail up in Hollywood, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Interestingly though, like, so you said before it's on a prison planet, like a colony almost. I really like that idea. I found it kind of interesting.
I did too. And it's like that, like lore, like that kind of stuff. Like, why not build more of that into what is this future world? What, that's where I think they dropped the ball, because the second half, it turns into a bit of it devolves.
Just an action fest.
It devolves. It's not even good action either.
No.
Yeah.
Dull action. We'll talk about it. But like, I did like the fact that all the prisoners were kind of born again.
Yeah. They had like this whole religious thing going on.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that they could have done there.
Yeah. I really think so. And like when we were talking about that there's an element missing. Like, I think that was one of the elements they could have really fleshed out some more. Like there is a scene where they try to rape Ripley. There is a scene of that. But like
they could show both sides.
Show me more.
Yeah.
No, not show me more. That sounds really bad. Build well. Build on that is what I'm trying to say.
Build on the raping.
I'm not Bill Cosby, I'm sorry. No, build on those ideas of, them being a bit more terrifying, because they're just kind of puppy dogs in this. They're not like exciting. They don't really do anything. And the fact they've all taken this vow of celibacy makes them even more prone to
eruption.
Yes, let's call it that, shall we?
Not the other E word.
We are back to the giant penis and Bo is afraid.
Oh God. That thing was gross.
But so I think one of the things this film does and does well is it adds some interesting lore to the world. So, for example, there was a scene that was cut where in an early version of the script, Ripley had a sore throat at the beginning. So we don't find out. So the short version of what's happening in this film is Ripley has a mother alien in her and realizes she has to kill herself.
By the way?
Well, that's the point. It's all ambiguous and they don't flesh that out. But there is an early scene that was cut where she had a cough and she had a sore throat, which was highlighting that it was probably like in an egg somewhere in their escape pod, like and forced its way down into Ripley's throat, giving her this sore throat, which I find really interesting. And the second one is that because the xenomorph in this, the alien, is actually created inside a dog. So like it bursts out of the dog pretty early on.
Yeah.
It's actually bipedal. It's on four legs. So it's running around. It's not bipedal. It's on four legs running around like the dog would. So it gives this...
captures the DNA of
it implies that xenomorphs, they're not actually a specific thing. They actually take on qualities of their hosts, which kind of comes through in some of the other movies.
That's interesting.
Isn't that so interesting?
Could have explored that a bit.
Other things to explore that weren't fully explored. But like, I do think some of these elements were like kind of fascinating. Could have pushed this forward somehow.
Yeah. Also, that Xenomorph comes out and it's like bigger than the dog.
Yeah, it's so big.
And I'm like, well, aren't they small when they start? I've never seen that and be like, oh, they've stepped up their game.
It's very The Thing in the way the dog kind of explodes out. It's a bit brutal, that.
Yeah.
Kind of liked it.
Oh, what a good boy. Poor good boy.
Poor good boy. Poor good boy. I did like the minor explorations into the corporation being super predatory and, just being sort of everywhere. I don't know, like it kind of mirrors our society a little bit in ways that I think maybe even they didn't realize there was.
I'm sure that corporations have been doing corporation shit since a long time.
Corporates be corporates.
Yeah, I think that they knew what they were doing there, but it is kind of like the thing about that is unless you go deeper into it, they did that in like 2 movies now. It's like it becomes tired.
Right.
The first movie, it was like hidden behind the scenes. There's an ulterior mission from the corporation, which was really intriguing, which is why it's so good. Second one's like they don't believe her.
Yes.
And then they kind of do, but they send a bunch of people there, not with the goal of saving people, with the goal of like killing and capturing the aliens. So it's like, again, the same thing. If they do that a third time, like without, diving into a bit more of the details behind it all, like to me, it gets tired.
Yeah. I can agree with that. And I think they couldn't escalate further because the last one was effectively a planet of aliens.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like escalation by that in that tone. It can be just like more dynamics of the characters making these decisions.
Yeah. Or even the politics behind it all. Like, give me more of that. Help me understand, like, how are these people everywhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How are they trying to bring this alien in? And
Yeah.
what are the actual reasons behind that? I guess the ambiguity of not knowing why they're bringing an alien in kind of keeps that ticking along.
They say it's just weapons division. It's like, okay, like... I get it, but like talk to me about the government that is so compromised that they're making this decision after seeing all this data.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
like
go explore how that becomes a thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I just need more.
thought they were going to do that in the second one, but then they just send Ripley off.
No, they're just like,
let's go find another one.
They're just like, we have shareholders. Bye.
Peace. I was interested, and one of the things that people hate about this movie, and I was interested to see how it was really pulled off, because I hadn't actually seen this before, was that it cuts a number of like fan favorites, quotation marks, at the very beginning. So the Space Marines, baby. Obviously, we only really had Hicks that survived. Hicks, Newt, even Bishop, for the most part, are pretty much killed off at the beginning off
all
screen.
Of them, instantly, basically.
I mean, Bishop sort of comes back a little bit, but...
the girl as well, the baby.
Yeah, Newt, which I find...
Newt? Is that what her name is?
Newt. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, it just doesn't feel very... It doesn't feel very in line with the franchise. Like, why are you killing people off screen?
I didn't mind the reset, actually.
Okay.
To be honest, it was like, okay, like all that was like, it didn't really inform her character much though. She was like pretty like down for like a scene. And then it's like,
yeah, she was
sad back to where she,
Yeah. I mean,
so,
that's a very good point. She didn't exactly experience.
Like I would like, if you're going to make a drastic decision like that, I would have liked to like bleed into other parts of the movie.
Yeah. Maybe exploring that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Even if she feels the guilt of being the one survivor, the lone survivor, like that's something to explore.
But I also don't disagree with the choice to like at least kill off the kid. Like, what are you gonna do with the kid?
That's a good question.
Like what if like that's just kind of a dead plot
and if she's
line.
supposed to be in stasis this whole time, she's probably grown up in real life, so it's probably a different movie.
Or like or she's like this like big kid that's like, I don't know, we didn't see how long it was, but she's just like this kid that's grown that's still a baby in her mind. It's like not an interesting character.
Yeah, what else could they do with her?
I think you had to kill her. That's my point. Like, I don't mind that.
Saying that, on a ship of rapists and murderers and stuff, having another female presence there, even a young one, like that's going to add to the tension.
Yeah,
that's going to add some serious, awkward
your mind is going places today.
Not even that.
It's just child pedophilia.
I'm not saying...
I'm sure there was some there, yes.
No one's saying that's what we want to see. What I'm saying is... The tension of the idea that these people could snap at any moment.
Yes, I get your
is actually an interesting thing.
Pulling
you little shitter.
Leg.
The dialogue was awful in this. Awful. Like the fact it just devolves in the last half of it to them just screaming, "I'm gonna fucking kill this thing!"
I'm like hallway A.
So bad.
E.
Just have one more take on the script, anyone, please, because it's just like it. It's just unnecessary. There's no communication. It's not interesting.
I like the
nuance.
I like the conversations between her and like the new prison guy. Like
okay.
That whole sequence of like we gotta take one for the team. He's like, dude, no. That.
What do you mean?
And then he just like finds his courage and hits him with a wrench, and it's like, dude, there's like 5 of them with guns. That are, like, why? Like, you've made your commitment. Now at least, like, try and be a bit more subtle or
come through with it.
You know, like have a better plan than Monkey Wrench. You know, like
Foo Fighters, baby.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like the characters were particularly well written outside of
Dance was
Ripley. I liked Charles Dance.
But he dies early.
Why does he die so early?
Like literally just head smashed.
I really like
Charles
Dance.
Surprised. I was like, really? I thought he was going to survive. I was like, no way he's going to die right now. And then they murked him.
I quite like the idea of giving Ripley a love interest as well. Because she's not really had that in the last ones.
Yeah.
Like before she was like a hard ass. She was like the heroine for all heroines.
She's
She
still
created
pretty
a genre
hard
on her own.
She's still pretty badass in this.
And she takes what she wants in this. And I really like that. But Charles Dance's character had some serious depth to him, like his tragic backstory about being a doctor and how it's his choice to be on this fucked up planet. Like, that's the stuff I wanted more of, and then they just kill him. It's like,
well, and then like then given he is somebody searching for redemption.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and like kind of not as compromised as these other people, and the fact that like he's not like a rapist.
Yes,
like
completely agree.
The idea that he could like be a way to investigate like how far can these other people be redeemed in this crazy situation that no one else ever faces is an interesting thing that just unused.
Yeah.
Could have used it.
Explore it more. Give me more of that. I love that idea. I like Charles S. Dutton as Dylan. Pretty cool character. The thing that really switched me off, though, in this movie was when you started to see more of the Xenomorph. If it wasn't awful CGI,
like
it
green.
It was just a dude in a suit.
It was like highlighted green at
It just
points.
looked so bad.
Wasn't it?
I honestly
it looked
can't
like it was
remember.
like nuclear waste Xenomorph sometimes.
Maybe it was.
I don't
Maybe
know.
it was just bad CGI and they didn't know how to get the lighting right.
Yeah.
But I think what really struck me about this movie was, like I say, the first 45 minutes, like it was pretty good. Like it was a slower pace, and it was more about the creeping nature of the horror edging into the sides of the screen. But then after 60 minutes, it just goes full out wild. Like shit just goes nuts. The Xenomorph's running around on all fours and you see it and you go to its POV. It's like,
fish lens.
Fisheye
lens.
Why are we what? Like what?
Yeah.
That threw it away for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of boring, that part.
Agreed. Like the pacing goes out the window. Like,
Yeah.
like that last,
for a while too.
Yeah, the action scene at the end where they're trying to trap it in the press or the forge, whatever they call it.
Yeah, the like liquid nitrogen pump or something.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I like the idea behind that, but it's too much is happening. You're in the alien's eyes, the Xenomorph's eyes at points. You're following the guy. These people are just screaming nonsense. It's just not cohesive enough.
Yeah, it's really convoluted for a simple idea.
Yeah, right.
like the execution of it. It could have been like 4 cuts or 10 cuts of like, and then it's like stuck there.
Too many cuts, my man. Too many cuts. But that's sort of the plot of this. They decide the only way there's a ragtag group of them left, and they decide the only way they can finish the alien is by getting him in this forge, which effectively is like an enclosed space. The Xenomorph, in this enclosed space, and then dumping molten lead on it to try and kill it. And it's picking off the different prisoners as it goes, and there's
also like they have no idea if it will die from that
completely.
But I guess they have no other option.
The best thing they have. They don't have weapons.
They have no other options. So that's kind of interesting.
I kind of liked it. And the interesting thing about it was there was no guns on it. And that's actually a Sigourney Weaver's thing. She's apparently very pro-gun control in America. So she is very much anti-guns, pro-gun law, and she didn't. And interestingly, she talks about the second one, and she hadn't fully understood the volume of like guns and action that was going to be in that film. And she was going to Jim Cameron being like, I'm against this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I think it worked for the film, but also like you're in a movie where there's like an alien and Marines, like there's going to be guns.
Marines.
It's not really the same thing as like comparing it to like a school shooting. Like obviously there's no one agrees that we should have school shootings, but we generally agree that Marines probably need guns. It's just what kind of point are you trying to make out of that? Sorry, Sigourney.
Not 100%
Don't necessarily agree with you there, but
I definitely thought the Xenomorph lacked a little nuance in this.
Yeah,
like in the last ones, how whenever you saw it, it was a big deal and it was doing something cool. Yeah. Whereas in this, it's just kind of just there.
It's like a zombie. It's like eating things half the time.
It's just, why is it hungry? Why is it killing them? Is it eating them?
Doesn't really have time to eat them.
It just kind of murks them. Like, what's the point of this? Like, does it just need to be the dominant species?
It's the predator.
No, it's not.
Part of the fun.
It's not. It's a Xenomorph. The fact that Xenomorph then survives the molten lead is kind of ridiculous, but also kind of terrifying at the same time. How do you kill this thing?
Well, you pour water on them.
On hot
Xenomorph,
stuff, and then for some reason it explodes.
No, that makes sense. That's some kind of physics or chemistry. Basically, remember they did it in Godzilla. Minus one.
Okay.
Minus one. Don't you remember?
I thought that was just water expanding.
They freeze him.
Sure.
And then like the pressure with the freeze and the heat change when the bomb hits it, all that together makes
I'm
it
so
expand.
distracted by how you said Godzilla -1.
Godzilla -1.
Godzilla. Okay. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, makes sense. I believe it.
What did you think of Ripley's ending in this trilogy as it was at the time?
I mean, it's up there with, Frodo Baggins on Mount Doom, dude.
You think?
She's just full of trust falling into the lava.
Yeah. Okay.
Stopping the Xenomorph from
getting away
with one hand, stiff arming the Xenomorph, and then like elegantly falling. No, it's not. But it is pretty visually stimulating. And I will say
very
that
religious.
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, it's very like Messiah kind of,
isn't it?
But also she didn't drop the bag the way Frodo does. I can get all the way to fucking Mount Doom, dude, and you just. Nah, I guess I'll keep it.
I like the idea though that all the way through she's with Dylan, like, you got to kill me. Like if like we can kill this Xenomorph, you got to kill me so the queen dies. I really like that idea. And then obviously he does, so she's like, holy fuck, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
I guess the only way is to jump into molten metal.
Ooh, what a way
molten
to go.
Lava? It's kind of lava-esque.
It was going to hurt.
Shit was going to hurt. I do like the idea that she was just about to be captured by the corporation as well.
Yes.
That's kind of fascinating. But I felt like, and one of the criticisms of this was that fans thought that wasn't a particularly good ending for her character, but I really thought it was.
What did they want?
Well, not even that. Like, she's fulfilling the hero's journey. She's making the ultimate sacrifice.
What do they fucking want?
It's a problem that she comes back in the fourth one.
But yes. And like, again, if she's like, you got to kill me, then she comes back. Like, how much did they pay her?
I think it's a clone of her in the next one. So I think that's how they get around.
No, I know, but like as an actress,
probably a fuckload of money. They probably just had a dump truck of cash and put it in a front yard. As these Hollywood types do. And anything before we move on to tones and themes, DL?
No, dude.
Wrap up thoughts.
I generally think that this gets too much heat, which we've talked about.
Surprisingly good.
Not like not amazing, but not as bad as I was expecting. Yeah,
agreed. Any tones and themes?
I think that it was there's a few. There's like the extent that you can have redemption. Like, what is that? They kind of explore that, like redemption and its like limitations or not, or non-limitations.
They tried.
People are kind of the sum of their decisions.
Yep.
The risks kind of unregulated, capitalism and power reach and greed and corporations. And I think that's mostly.
Isn't that fun? I just had, sacrifice, corporate greed and exploitation. The usual things. I did like Ripley's symbolic death. I think it was mainly because Weaver wanted to be killed off in the final movie. Didn't feel like it added much to tones and themes, though. Do best in 3 West DL?
Good end for her character, I thought.
Yep.
Except apparently it's not.
Fans didn't like it.
Charles Dance, liked him.
Oh yeah, I like Charles Dance in this.
Don't mind the setting and the lore. It was good. It was a good setup.
Yeah, I feel like I've got the first half of the movie. I feel like it set something up really nicely that it didn't fully explore. So there were a couple of bits we've talked about this that it could have gone with, and it just didn't quite get there. So I really liked the first half of the movie. I had the deepening of the lore, those bits we talked about. The Xenomorph. That set of characters. And I really liked the H.R. Geiger environments. He wasn't as involved in this one as he was with the last ones, but the bits that were his, you could really tell that sort of like, really creepy gothic. Oh, I love it. Love it. What about worst?
CGI was terrible.
I've got a CGI too.
Yeah, it's terrible. Missing an element, whatever it was missing some kind of plot line or, subterfuge that could have carried the last part of the plot. And lots of one-dimensional ensemble bad guys that are good guys
bad guys,
the prisoners. Like, there wasn't probably enough there.
I completely agree with that. I had the new Xenomorph. I really liked it, but for the most part, it was just a dude in a suit or bad CGI.
Yeah.
The fact they didn't fully explore any of the themes we talked about just missed something. I don't know what it was. I don't think it deserves all the heat it gets. Just wasn't there for me. All right, DL, quickly then. Can you guess for me the current IMDb score for this?
Current IMDb scores, fans hate it. 6.8.
Ooh, it's a 6.4.
Okay.
That's kind of middling though. Like I don't think that's a hatred. That's not.
Boa is Afraid is higher than it.
That's well. Okay, let's not talk about Bo is Afraid
You
again.
get my point though. Like it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
This has been out a lot longer as well though.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes percentage. What do you reckon?
78.
48. I feel like that's more aligned to what the fans probably say about this film.
Fair enough.
Finally, then Letterboxd, which is always 3.6, but it's never 3.6.
2.7 then.
2.9.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how the movie, like this critical reception is how it is portrayed by fans of the film.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that.
Or the franchise, sorry.
The franchise.
Sort of sits in line with what I would expect. So finally, then we do our rating system. And as you all know, we do Is It Better or Worse than Aquaman 2018? And why? Dia, is it better or worse than this really fucking average movie?
Yeah, we do that because this is the most average movie of all time. I don't know. I guess it's better.
Okay.
I guess.
I think just for the first half alone,
it's better.
Like, they both have dodgy CGI.
They're pretty close, though.
Yeah.
It's
not
like
far off.
It's not a no-brainer.
Wasted potential is what I'll say for this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of wasted potential. Okay, so we're saying it's better?
I think it's
just
better.
about?
Just this sliver.
I'll agree with you on this
sliver
one.
Better.
Just by a little bit. All right. Do you want a bit of trivia? True or false to wrap up, DL?
Let's hear it.
Let's do it. True or false, DL? Original Alien 1979 director Ridley Scott turned down the chance to direct. Is that true or is that false?
I think it's true.
It is true. Scott and later Rennie Harlin both thought the third film should explore the Xenomorph's home planet. I find that fascinating.
Well, that's like the next one he made, isn't it?
Well, they obviously go and do Prometheus.
Yeah,
and those
which
types
wasn't
of...
even the home planet, though, is it?
No, it was whatever that species of white people were.
Yeah. The super white
guys.
guys.
The super white dudes.
So white.
The Jesus.
And they just look like humans.
Interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not how humans started, but just very bleached white humans. I forget what they called. They're the makers or something.
I don't know.
Anyway, Prometheus. Yeah. We'll come back and do it at some point because I've never actually seen that film. Trivia false DL. By the time that an additional round of filming was started in the LA studio, Sigourney Weaver's hair had grown back, and she had an agreement with the producers that she would only cut it again if they paid her $40,000 in bonuses. Is that true or is that false?
Feels like not that much.
I mean, for 1992, it's a lot of money.
True. And just to cut your hair?
To cut your hair. I mean, I wouldn't want to.
Why couldn't they do like a bald cap?
Well, is it true or is it false?
It's true.
It is true because her husband hated the haircut, and apparently the producers
just couldn't get hard.
The producers,
sorry, he's like, I need to be able to. I can't do another 2 years of this.
He's no Charles Dance. They basically hired a guy to create a ball cap for her, and they had a lot of difficulties putting it on and creating it for her head. Which, why not do that in the first place? I suppose if she's got really long hair, it's harder to.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you think? I bet what's her name for V for Vendetta buzzed it.
She did.
Yeah,
she absolutely
pretty
did.
Badass.
Okay, two more then. Trivia false DL. Sigourney Weaver originally pitched the idea that she gave birth to the alien in a natural way and tamed it to take and fight aliens in an upcoming sequel. Is that true or is that false?
It feels like that is a Sigourney Weaver idea.
Really?
True.
Holy fuck, I just made that shit up.
I feel like
she wanted to die at the end of the film. She wasn't going to birth.
Oh, that's actually a good point. I just meant like it seems kind of dumb.
Yeah, okay.
Like her like, oh, we can't have guns in a war movie because I don't believe in guns. Well, it's literally a fictional movie about war.
Fair, absolutely fair. Last one then. Trivia false DL. Dylan's death was written quite differently. Dylan?
Who's Dylan?
The main guy who saves her.
Which one's that?
The black dude with the glasses.
Okay. Yeah, he's cool.
He is.
We liked him.
Yeah, okay. He's the one who dies by the Xenomorph.
Yeah.
Dylan's
holds
death.
him back for a while too.
True or false DL? He does for some how.
He's like making out with him.
I don't know how.
He's like keeping him all close. He's like, yeah, come on, pour the lead. Oh yeah, I'm loving it.
Weird movie plot contrivance. Everyone else dies immediately, and he's just like, I got this. True or false DL? Dylan's death was originally written quite differently in an earlier version of the shooting script. Originally, he was successfully to climb out of the lead mold together with Ripley, and then was pulled back in by the alien once it had molten lead poured on it. Is that true or is that false?
That's true.
It is true, and it was also in the novelization and the comic adaptation of the ending. Look, ultimately, I quite like this for 60% roughly of it, if not more. Like, it had a lot of things that were good. It fell down at the last hurdle, but like it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no, I actually like it better than maybe the second one, to be honest.
Oh, that's interesting. 60% I like better than the second one.
That's true. The back half is bad.
I like, you know what? In the second one, I didn't like where it went with
Mendoza
the full action shit. Yeah, right. And the wanky characters.
Yeah, it's just a bit too campy. Like,
but then once you're in it and you're like 60-70% of the way through, you're like, fuck it, we're here now. Like, it's an action film.
Now I get it.
Let's just enjoy it. Why not? Whereas with this, it went the other way. It was like, oh, I'm really digging what we're building, and then it just went,
and not even fun action.
DL, should we wrap up the show, my man?
We should. A big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode.
Thank you, Matt.
He's the best. If you'd like him to be a part of your podcasting team, get in touch on business@mbpod.com or head to mbpod.com to find out more about his podcast services.
He makes us sound like real people every week.
He does. If you want to hear his work, listen to From My Home to Yours, an expat repat podcast where Matt and his wife share their experiences and advice for others moving country or state or city or really anywhere. Go give them 5 stars. Go give us 5 stars. You can find us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or reach out at thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. Rebrand incoming soon, whenever we can get round to it. But we would love that 5 stars, guys. If you do it for us, that'd be really fun, really helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you. And pass the pod. If you know someone who might like this shit, give it over to them. L'chaim, pass the pod.
Thank you so much, DL.
Thank you, Tommy. Until next time.
Tally ho, baby.
Doo-doo.